restrooms at Enterprise Dog Park status. Has it been brought up about using these portable restrooms at any park that doesn't have any?
This was an item that came up at the last meeting. I added it to find out what's going on with it. It was proposed at the last meeting.
Right.
And I think Art thought we would do it, so I thought, let's find out what the latest is. I didn't bring it up at the last meeting, but somebody did. I think Kelly may have.
Okay.
So I thought, let's find out what's going on with it at
Okay.
Enterprise Dog Park. But you can also ask a question for Tom.
Because like at Forest Run, they don't have any bathrooms, you know?
Yep, I hear you.
And maybe a good thing to look into, you know?
Yep. Rosemary, you did say 4, right? Good evening. I'd like to call to order the April 23rd April 23rd meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. My name is Patrick Raftery. I'm chairman of the board. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce to you the other members of the board who are all volunteers. To my left is Marty Armstrong. To my right is Jason Hood, who is also vice chairman of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Next to him is Angelica Lonesome. I think you go by Angie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I would like to welcome everybody that's here in person, as well as those people viewing on television. We look forward to a very productive meeting tonight. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of our January 23rd, 2024 meeting. We have seen copies of those minutes. And is there any corrections to be made to those minutes before they are adopted?
I have a correction. I was not here at the last meeting, and it shows up that I was there, so just scratch my name off.
Can that correction be made and us adopt the minutes with that correction?
Yes.
Okay. If
So
there's no-
moved.
I need a second, please.
Oh, I second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. The minutes are approved. The next item is citizens to be heard regarding items that are not on the agenda. Hopefully, everybody has an agenda so that you will know which items have already been added to the agenda. If not, there should be copies on that chair behind Mr. Cater, if you need a copy of it. If you are going to speak on an item not on the agenda, we would ask that you fill out one of our cards in case there's some follow-up required, so we know who you are and how to reach you. In addition to that, you are asked to restrict your comments to 3 minutes. Simply approach the podium, give us your name, and speak on the subject you'd like to talk about. So at this time, we'll entertain any residents who would like to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. If you'd please approach the podium and address us.
Hello and good evening. Jason Mastropietro, 1079 Cephas Road. I'm president of the Friends of Moccasin Lake Nature Park. And a couple things, I just want to mention a couple things that we're doing. It's been well publicized. We have an Earth Day that is happening this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We offset it for a week for most of the other Earth Day celebrations that have more people attend the event. I also wanted to say that we did a tour last week of the property that is abutting the Edenwood Street gate entrance that was purchased and has now been cleaned up. That's about the 3 acres. It looked really fantastic. It's going to be a welcome addition to the park. And the other matter is that next month in May on the 15th from 6:30 to 8 p.m., we're running a program. It's the first program that our group has actually run at the park, and it's for birds of prey education and conservation programs. I know there's some items that you're going to be talking about later with the birds of prey program there, but this is more about how the program runs, what it takes to permit birds, how do you feed them, how do you vet people that are volunteers so that they can actually work there and be safe. Thank you.
All right. If you just give us a moment, I'd like to
Yes.
commend yourself and your organization, Friends of Moccasin Lake Nature Park, for the work they do on behalf of the park, and also mentioned it in this past Sunday's Tampa Bay Times. There was an excellent article on Moccasin Lake Nature Park recommending that that be the place you go to celebrate Earth Day. So I would encourage anybody that would like to celebrate Earth Day to perhaps visit that Clearwater gem, Moccasin Lake Nature Park. Any further comments or questions from the board? Thank you very much,
Okay,
Jason.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other resident that would like to speak to an item that is not on tonight's agenda? If not, we will move on to the new business items. The first item is 4.1, discuss the nuisance species survey of Clearwater parks. I think this is a subject dear to Marty Armstrong's heart, and we will now discuss it in some detail.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yes, this is something that I've been doing my whole professional life for 40 years is nuisance species control. And I brought it up for the last meeting, but then I failed to get here in time. So I called Art Cater and I said, what did I miss? But anyway, I just wanted to keep bringing this up because I think it's very important that we know we're stewards of our properties. And since we have 100 and how many parks? 109 parks. Good Lord. That's a lot of parks. And this area, I've been doing nuisance control since I came down here in '86. And so I know how bad it can get. And I would just think it would be a good idea to get a good handle on what our problems are and make a plan so we can go and fix them. And I will lend my expertise however I can, but I just wanted to, just bring it up to everybody and say, because if you don't take care of nuisance species like Brazilian pepper, melaleuca, Australian pine, Kogan grass, all these different nuisance that have come into Florida in the last 40, 50 years, if you don't take care of it, it's going to take you over. And so I would hate to see these parks that we've put so much time and effort into cleaning them up and taking care of them, that they get out of control. So I would ask Art to comment on how is the Park and Recreations Department handling this, and what are they doing to try to get a hold of this?
Well, certainly we, as we discussed last week or month, 3 months ago, I get it right once. 3 months ago, Matt Anderson was here and of course shared with the committee what we are doing. Basically, the time that we really hit the weeds, the noxious plants, those types of things are during the winter time, simply because we have more manpower to be able to address to that. However, what we try to do is when we purchase a new piece of property or when we develop a piece of property, we take that opportunity to completely clean out all of the invasive species at that time. As you know, the peppers are everywhere and they try to take everything over. We had quite a few on the new piece of property at Moccasin. We went in there and we took a lot of them out. As you know, we've cleared that area out quite a bit and it looks very nice now. So it's really a spot type program, although I wanted to part of your package there, you will find a copy of what is actually online now. We know that the citizens are concerned about spraying of pesticides in the city. They're concerned about how we spray them, where we spray them. They're concerned about the animals, their dogs, those types of things, and having a program that it meets all the requirements of the law. So now we do have online that anyone can get to, would be at myclearwater.com, about us, and it's pest management and pesticide. Now what I did is I just copied the whole webpage, so there are many places that you can go to find out information about our pest management control program that we have. It also gives you good information about what you can do to address some of these issues. And we also have just definitions of what invasive plants and pests, and we also have a list of all the herbicides that we use, pre-emergent, post-emergent, and insecticides, fungicides, and plant growth regulators. We use all of those in the city of Clearwater. We have spray technicians that are licensed to do that, and they're out there every day working on that. We also have put in this chart because people would like to know kind of what we're using, how much we're using, those types of things, because oftentimes people, that's all they see, and they're concerned about that, and rightfully so. So we actually have a chart there which will be kept up to date every month. We'll put in the amount of chemicals that we're using and the type of chemicals that we're using. If you need additional information, we have some website that are listed there, and you can certainly contact them and get more information if you need to. So we're pushing this information out the best we can, Mr. Armstrong.
Well, thank you, Art. I appreciate your following up on that.
I did have a question for you, Art. How much of the species control is done by outside contractors versus in-house? Is it all in-house, or is it outside contractors as well assisting with that effort?
We're not doing any of the lakes, any of the water bodies, those types of things. We are doing, however, all of the landscape areas that we have, basically those which are in our parks,
Right.
which are 109, as well as the approximately 640 other sites that we have to maintain in the city. That's done in-house by our staff members.
Okay. I'll make a comment that I made at the last meeting when we discussed this subject, in that I had been asked by residents to take a look at Lake Chautauqua as well as Forest Run with respect to nuisance species and so forth. And I was accompanied on that visit by one of the members of your staff, and they pointed out to me that what they definitely do each time in the park is to make sure the walkways are cleared of any invasive species. And that was absolutely correct at the significantly large Lake Chautauqua Park. You could get through the walkways well, off the walkways a bit. Yes, there's some invasive species out there, but they're basically focused on making sure the walkways are okay and clear for residents to use. That was also true in Forest Run Park. In fact, the gentleman also showed me something that, in cooperation with the University of Florida, with respect to potato plants, they had introduced a bug that likes to eat the potato plants, and they put those bugs in that park, and he showed me where they had devoured potato plants and were continuing to eat those in an attempt to control them. So there certainly is an effort underway to make sure that those things are controlled as best we can. So I appreciate the effort on that part of the parks. Any other questions from board members on?
I have
Yeah.
one. But is there anything that can be done about wasp nests and I know that it's kind of hard to do, but the prevalence of the poisonous caterpillars, the oak caterpillar, I think the spiny oak caterpillars on the playgrounds? Is there anything?
Yeah, that's not anything we would do, in a park we would. If you know of a nest or anything
Because
that's,
at Forest Run, my son's school is right across the street from Forest
Okay.
Run, so we're there like quite regularly. And like the playground is pretty much unplayable because those caterpillars are poisonous. So like
Okay.
keeping the kids away from them is
again, email me and anything like that.
Okay.
Wasp nest, bees nest, or the caterpillars, and I'm not quite sure which caterpillars there are there.
I don't know specifically, they're spiky and they're poisonous, and I know that we're not supposed to let our kids touch them because
Okay.
they can sting them.
Email me, would you?
Okay,
Or
I will.
.cater@myclearwater.com.
I will definitely do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board member on this topic?
No.
Does anybody from the public want to speak on this particular subject? Give us any input.
The amount of acreage that you're protecting.
You have to approach the podium and give us your name and so forth.
I'm disabled. May I speak from here?
It's not for me, sir, it's for the public.
This is for the public.
I need you to come to the podium if you're able.
One moment, please. Thank you. It'll take me a moment.
You have as much time as you need.
Thank God. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Good.
We didn't want to put an imposition on you, but it's important that we know who you are and people can see you and understand what you're talking about.
Thank God. On the amount of acreage that you have that is held for the environment. My name is Robert Stephen Walker. Thank you. Where does that actually stand? You're speaking. You are also speaking. Where does it stand for environmental protection? Which includes you, and you, and you, and everyone here. Where do we go?
I mean, how much acreage? Is that your question?
Excuse me?
How much acreage is in the parks? Is that your question?
Yeah, it actually is. I mean, for what you find invasive, where does it go? Where do we stand?
Well,
What do we do?
that's what I've been
Talking
asking Art to
Everglades?
come up with
We're
a,
talking Pinellas County.
Yeah, I think Mr. Cater attempted to explain what the current program is that we are following within Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, I'm hard of hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
It's not a problem, I'm reading your lips right now.
okay. He also gave us a handout, which we can share with you as to what the current program is for controlling the
I'm fine with that.
nuisance species and so forth.
Yeah,
But they do have a program that they do follow in-house to control it as best they can. And
Okay.
And also, any resident that's using a park that has an issue with respect to a nuisance species causing a problem in the park, they can reach out to Parks and Recreation and report it, and we can take a look at that.
okay, so it's limited.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the comments.
Would it help if you sat up here closer? Would it help you if you're up here closer?
Okay. Does anyone else from the public care to speak on this particular item? If not, we will move on to the next item, 4.2, which is a discussion of the power line tree trimming. I'm not sure which board member put that item on there.
I
but-
think I did.
Okay.
I brought this up about a year ago, and I talked to Art about it, and he had Matt Anderson come in, and I still have a problem with the way that some of these utility companies are, without using a better word, destroying these trees by cutting the crown out of them and allowing the power lines to go straight down. And I don't understand, because it makes the tree weaker, no matter how you look at it. And I would just hope that, I know some people think it's okay and it doesn't hurt anything, but to me, it's just if you keep trimming a tree to make it open up so that you can run a power line down there, all you do is you have to come back every year and keep trimming it back. And it just seems like a huge waste of time and money. And I would rather see that tree taken out and put a replacement tree in an area where there isn't any power lines. I mean, that's just my philosophy. And I may be way off base, but that's just how I look at it. And because the amount of money that we spend hiring these companies to go out and trim trees, I have no idea what it is, but it's got to be huge because I see them all over the place. And it's not just Clearwater, it's throughout Florida. And we're in a hurricane state, and if you continue to trim back these trees to where they're weakened and then you have a hurricane, then you have another problem. And, you know, I was in Tallahassee in '85 when Elena came through, and they had a heck of a problem because all the trees knocked all the power lines down. Why don't we have just a general condition where we say, okay, we're not going to plant any trees under these power lines because we know what's going to happen. We have hurricanes and it takes out the power lines. So I don't know. It's just my philosophy on how to manage trees in an urban environment. And I would think that we would try to use a little more common sense than just, oh, we'll come back and trim it up again, you know? It just seems a huge waste of time and money, so.
I thought you might be leading into a rather significant controversy that has already been going on with respect to Duke Energy, actually removing trees. They've undertaken a program where they're going to, if they think it's economically the best thing to do, rather than trimming the trees repeatedly, they are removing the trees. And they have a right-of-way where they can do that, but they are also impacting residents on their property, residents on the right-of-way and so forth, and they're simply taking huge canopies and just taking them down completely, and sometimes, maybe in every case, leaving the stumps there. So that's been a problem that's been brought up by residents in the areas affected for the last couple of council meetings for sure. At the one that I attended on the 18th of April, there must have been at least 6 people speaking on that very subject relative to seeing if there could not be a compromise with Duke Energy is who you're talking about.
Right.
With respect to trimming the trees, continuing to trim the trees, or in fact, making a decision to remove the tree. And I think that's a controversy right now that's not yet been resolved. I have been listening to this for the last couple of council meetings and have been somewhat concerned about it, although it's not affecting me. And I have to say, I reached out to the CEO of Duke Energy about 10 days ago on this very matter, basically saying there is an opportunity for Duke Energy to reach out and speak to the public on this subject to explain what their program is, why they're doing it this way, what other compromises or options are available for keeping this under control, but they have failed to do that. Even the assistant city manager of Clearwater, Mr. Dan Slaughter, got involved in this, and they seem not to be able to share information with him about further cutting and removal that's going to be done. After the last council meeting last Thursday, where it came up again, I reached out to Lynn Cook, who is the CEO, and said, I'd not heard from you, but there's an opportunity that I think Duke Energy needs to take advantage of presenting to the public what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and perhaps some compromises can be made. To my pleasant surprise, I was contacted by a local executive from Duke Energy on Monday who called me and spoke to me for about a half an hour. We had a very good discussion, and I made a couple of suggestions to them. The first one was, rather than talking to individual people that have a problem with a tree being removed on their property or in the right-of-way that's removing the canopy, perhaps they could schedule some type of public forum where they would speak to everybody that's affected by this, as well as those that are not affected by it but have an interest in it, to explain to them what their program is, get feedback from the public, and perhaps come up with some compromises. For example, do additional trimming rather than remove that tree. Should be something actively considered. If you're going to remove a tree, would you consider replacing that tree with another tree from Duke Energy? Not to be planted in the same spot to give us problems a few years from now, but if people have canopies in their yards that are being destroyed or in the right-of-way, perhaps trees can be put there in an attempt to replace them. She listened to me and talked to me, and I thought it was a very productive discussion, and she said they would get back either to the city or to the residents they've heard from, and they would come up with a program to hopefully have a public forum where this matter could be thoroughly discussed between Duke Energy officials responsible for the program and the residents that are affected or the residents that are interested in this problem being addressed. So I was very encouraged by that, but it just happened on Monday. So I can't tell you anything that's developed since that time, but they did say they would reach out to me and let me know what they may have decided. I would ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to speak on this particular subject, and I know one individual in particular I think that might speak about it because I've heard her at the council meetings, quite frankly. I don't know if you want to speak, Patricia, or not.
Okay, Patricia Kirby, 1111 Spencer Avenue, Clearwater, Florida. Oh my God, okay, first of all, horrible, horrible, horrible idea. Like your philosophy on managing trees in an urban environment is to remove them. We are here to speak for the trees. By the way, I like your idea and I like your proactivity. That's really good. I feel like it's another instance of let's give the power company a chance to tell us that they're going to cut down our trees in a different way. I like the alternative ideas too, but the replacement idea of let me give you this teeny tiny little tree in a bucket to replace your 150-year-old oak tree isn't going to fly with people. People are, I can't even tell you, they're extremely upset. They say, I bought this house because of these trees in my backyard, in my front yard. They're upset. If it was your house and your trees, you would be upset too. I know you would. You'd be like, I love that tree. You know, my grandmother planted that tree or whatever it is. I also agree with you in that the trimming is weakening the trees. That's not good either. It's not. But then we need to really do a data assessment, which the power company isn't giving us the data on, which is how many trees really do fall over and knock down. Now, in the instance of the bigger power lines, I want to know that statistic. I spoke at the Board of County Commissioners today asking the question of how many times in a year has a tree fallen down and knocked over one of these high voltage transmission lines. How often has that happened? What's that statistic? And then balance that with the statistic of how many trees are you cutting down? How many have you already cut down? How many do you plan to cut down? Because it's a 500-mile path that these high voltage poles are on. So, I mean, people are never going to be okay with you cutting their trees down for any reason. They're not. These are healthy, beautiful trees. They do not just randomly fall over and knock down big transmission poles like this. And I'm not talking about the neighborhood lines. I'm talking about the really big ones here. But even the neighborhoods of them trimming the trees, like they're doing chop jobs. And our arborists, like Duke is employing companies from Georgia and companies from California and a lot of people who don't even speak English. And it's really poorly done. They're destroying our sidewalks. It's just, I don't know if hiring a better tree trimming company would help or if there's just another way of doing it or find out a way to bury the lines underground. And that's really what we need to be doing. We are in the 21st century. Let's put the lines underground if we can, even if it might be some greater cost. So anything else I would say, I've requested twice now from the city records on our franchise agreement and I'm not getting them. They keep sending me other power agreements and not Duke's agreement. I just want to know when our contract runs out because St. Petersburg is shopping around. This is a for-profit company. Their quarterly profit in December was almost $5 billion. They certainly have the money to do better on their people, and we're paying the third highest rate for our electricity. We need to shop around given the way that they're treating us.
Right. Yeah, I think a couple of points I'd like to make if I could. The whole idea of me speaking to them was to basically say we have not heard Duke Energy's side of the story. Every person that speaks at the council meeting, rightfully so, is castigating them for the work that they're doing. But on the other hand, we're not hearing from them why they're doing this, what can they do differently, et cetera, et cetera. And coming from the business world, I've always felt when you have a significant problem like that, you always have to hear both sides of the story. When both sides are well heard and understood, you can then come to some compromise, perhaps, where everybody's reasonably happy. People may never be thoroughly happy, but at least they'll be reasonably happy. And that was the purpose of my reaching out to them. And I'm hoping they're going to take advantage of that. A couple of things that they told me when I first talked to them, maybe 3 weeks ago, was that they have the legal right to remove those trees. They could absolutely just say, we're not going to talk to anybody. We have the legal right to remove those trees, and we're simply going to remove them. However, there is a public relations, public communications concern that they have. So I'm going to say I would like us to defer until perhaps they come forward with some type of discussion where people like yourself and other residents could make known to them your concerns, and they may have time to think about what can we do different, i.e. trim rather than take out. Take out and replace perhaps with a tree. Maybe that's not be acceptable to some people, but if I had a house that had a tree removed, I might want to say, yes, I like another tree there. It might take 10 years for it to grow to height, but in other words, compromise. I've always felt, be it in business or politics, compromise is the lubricant that allows progress to be made. And if you're not willing to compromise and you're drawing a hard line in the sand, you may not be very happy with the results of that. But I'm keeping an open mind. So let's see what develops with it. But it certainly is a problem that we've heard about very frequently at the council meetings. So.
I want to appreciate your level-headedness and calmness, and you're willing to look for collaboration and compromise as well. I don't have a tree at risk. I'm speaking up for people who I care about, and I
Right.
care about our city. So I literally don't have a dog in this fight, you know?
Well,
I don't.
long ago when I started in business, I was told, Patrick, you can't slap somebody in the face and then ask them to help you because they're not going to do it. So let's see how this goes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else from the public like to speak on this subject? If not, anybody from the board?
No, I just wanted to say that I agree with you, and I think it would help to have a better understanding of the rules that Duke Energy goes by for their
Right.
program of cutting down the trees to
Yep.
understand what we can do to compromise, to understand, the things that we can change,
Right.
to help this problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll now move on to item 4.3, which is the update on the activity of the Friends of Coachman Park organization. This was an idea that Mr. Cater himself had, somewhat modeled after the Friends of Moccasin Lake Nature Park, if you will, to have people, residents volunteer to provide input for the Coachman Park operation.
Yes. Thus far, we've actually had 3 meetings of the public that have come, had good attendance at those meetings, a lot of enthusiasm. Their main focus has been, and will continue probably to be, the programming of the park itself, rather than programming of the sound or any of those types of things. They're looking forward to working on the programs that we hold at the parks, and we've taught them a lot about event planning and how to do that. We are having another meeting on the 24th, April 24th, here at the main library, and at that time we're going to try to transition more to go ahead and see the next steps where you basically could have officers and those types of things to be able to transition more as the community group rather than having Parks and Rec kind of lead that. We will always be there, support that, but that's kind of where we are. And so far it's been successful.
How many members of the public are on the?
I don't have that. I know the first meeting there was quite a few.
Quite a few?
I mean, up in 30, I think, people.
Okay.
So there was a lot of interest there, and I apologize for not having that number.
I was just curious.
Okay.
Okay.
I can get it back to you, though.
Very good.
Okay?
Any questions or comments from the board on that topic? Anybody from the public would like to speak on this particular topic?
Bill Johnson. Question, I had heard from Mr. Delk that there's a count of people that are participating in the park at the amphitheater. That so far, about 70,000 people have come to events there, but that people that have come to events in the open space of the park was estimated to be 120,000 people. So almost double. I'm kind of interested in knowing where the 120 came from, and I think that should be publicized more because that's a great
Huge
story.
number.
Thank you.
It was a very good comment. It comes from Sea Blues, it comes from Market Marie, it comes from a lot of large programming that our special event does down there and fills the park up.
Right.
We've tried to activate it, and we're proud of that, and we'll continue with the Friends, which will also increase additional programming in the park.
Very good. Anybody else from the public care to comment on this item before we move on to the next item? The next item is 4.4, which is the proposed portable restrooms at Enterprise Dog Park. This item happened to come up at our last meeting of the advisory board, and I was just curious, I didn't propose it then, but I was just curious as to what is the status of that proposal, I think, that was first made at our meeting in January.
Yes, we installed a restroom facility, a portable restroom facility at the Enterprise Dog Park in March, so it has been out there. You can check that one off your list.
Very good.
We also, in addition, we've had a lot of concerns at the Crest Lake Dog Park. Even though we have restrooms in that park, it is quite a long distance for people to walk. We did put a portable restroom there after hearing from numerous citizens making that request.
Very good.
It's very much appreciated.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I was just curious, Art, is there any other parks that you're planning on putting in portable restroom facilities or permanent restroom facilities?
At this time, no. A lot of our parks, one of the issues that we have had, we closed down many of the restrooms, as you know, we've discussed this before, in some of our neighborhood parks back in 2009, 2010, and have since not reopened them. It was due to the economic downturn at that point in time. But there's around, I think, 6 of them that are still closed. So there's no, right now, plans on the board to construct new ones. I need people we would need people to maintain them is the main
Right,
thing.
yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Gotta have manpower.
Well, maintain them, and you gotta open them, and you gotta close them, you gotta take care of them.
Yep.
I remember this came up at some residents when I went to Woodgate Park, and they mentioned about they have the restrooms there, but they are typically not manned or administered.
correct.
And we discussed this at one of our previous meetings, and you can understand that to put the manpower to maintain that restroom, keep it clean, monitor it when people may or may not use it is an expense that you're basically trying to avoid. However, there is an option if you're going to schedule an event at Woodgate in particular, they said, you may schedule your event through the Parks and Recreation Department, and if it's necessary that the restrooms need to be open, you can arrange for that to be done. So there is an option to do that. With respect to Forest Run Park, which is in my neighborhood, that is part of the concept of a neighborhood park. And as it was explained to me, the neighborhood parks are basically situated in a neighborhood where the residents in near proximity to it can use it. And by the same token, it was suggested to me that if you're in that neighborhood, hopefully you know your neighbors well enough that if you need to use a bathroom, you can knock on their door and ask if you can use their bathroom. Or do not drink too much Gatorade before you go play basketball.
Yeah.
Drink it afterwards. So I think there's an effort to try and address it, but certainly the manpower to administer and maintain them is a significant expense that we have to be careful about. Anybody from the public want to comment on this item at all? If not, we'll move on to the next item, 4.5, contract status of the Tampa Bay Raptors Group with Moccasin Lake Nature Park. This is an item that I added because I believe I had been told that the Sierra Club was going to back off of the contract that they had with the Birds of Prey exhibit, and yet Tampa Bay Raptors might engage with us in a contract to help support it. So I just thought we would get an update for ourselves and the public as to where that stands.
Yes, actually, the contract is completed, and it is in their hands, and we're waiting for them to sign, to be quite honest with you. So
Excellent.
as soon as we get it back, we will sign it, give them a copy, and we'll
Beautiful.
be all good. The birds will be fine, they'll be
Very good.
safe.
That should be good news for you, Jason, and your people.
It is good news, and I'm sorry, sometimes I have trouble with pronouns. Could you tell me, just to confirm, when you say they have it, who is they? Just so I make sure I
Barbara,
understand.
is it Barbara?
Barbara with the Tampa Bay.
Barbara with
Raptors,
Tampa
Birds of
Bay
Prey.
Raptors has the agreement. She just needs to sign it, or the president.
And between her and her organization and the city of Clearwater.
That is correct. Then she comes back, and this is one agreement that I can sign, does not have to go to the council. So I can sign it, it's done.
Very good.
Yes, that is great news, thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board on this particular item?
No, that's awesome.
It is awesome.
That is a
Absolutely.
great program.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
Anybody,
no problem.
beg your pardon. Anybody from the public like to comment on this item? It sounds like it's a done deal, though, which is a good thing. We'll move on to the next item, 4.6, which is the status of the tear down at Moccasin Lake Nature Park of the pavilion and to do the trail extension. I know this is an item that Parks and Recreation has undertaken, but I'm not certain as to its current status, so I thought we and the public would get an update on that tonight as well.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. The shelter itself has been demolished and removed, and the trash been removed around there. Base material has already been laid for the additional 575 feet of trail, the new trail.
Okay.
That will actually provide a loop, another loop in the park.
Right.
So we hope to have the shell has been ordered, and we hope this project will be completed on the second week of May.
Okay.
In addition, just so you know, the demo work of the bridge is currently underway. This week it's supposed to happen. I don't know if they've been out there today, but it will happen this
Right.
week. And that's about a 90-day project to be completed and we'll have the boardwalks open again.
That's an excellent update, and that's a demonstration of the collaboration between the Friends of Moccasin Lake Nature Park, who first brought that to our attention last year, and the Parks and Recreation Department responding to this issue and moving forward on fixing it. So that's very good news again, I think. Moving on to old business items, 5.1, a discussion to consider naming one of the softball fields at Countryside Community Park. There was a public notice that it was going to be considered to name this park after Mr. Larry Dowd, and Mr. Cater will give us some information about that proposal, and I think we will have a resolution to send to the city council once that discussion is completed.
Yes, I think you have in your packet a proposal for a park facility name. It came through the president of the Countryside Little League to name one of the fields at the Countryside Little League complex after Mr. Larry Dowd. Larry Dowd was a coach there. You'll hear a little bit more about that. I also attached to your packet is the letter that was sent at that time requesting the name change. And I would like to, if it's okay, with the board to read that letter so for the public and everyone else. It says here, the Countryside Little League Board of Directors is reaching out to you regarding the feasibility of naming one of the Countryside Little League softball fields in honor of Coach Larry Dowd. As you know, Larry has been actively involved in youth sports in our community for over 40 years. He has been involved with Countryside Little League since its early founding in the 1980s, as well as coaching Countryside High School and the Countryside Junior Cougars. And according to his daughters, he's coached a whole lot more than that. Coach Dowd was instrumental in coaching the 1996 Countryside Little League World Softball Series championship team. He has also served the city of Clearwater for most of his working career in the Parks and Recreation Department, helping to create and oversee the nationally recognized parks and recreation facilities we all enjoy today. Larry is a coach extraordinaire with very few peers. His dedication, knowledge, passion, commitment, and love of the game were channeled through his gifted coaching skills. Coach Dowd has been an inspiration to generations of players, coaches, and parents. He has had a strong and positive impact on countless lives as well as the whole community. Coach Dowd is a shining example of all that is good in youth sports. Larry is the type of person who makes the world a better place. Unfortunately, currently, Larry is battling some serious health issues, and we are hoping that the city of Clearwater will consider honoring one of the community heroes by naming, in his honor, one of the actual fields where he worked tirelessly to improve the lives of our children and our entire community. That was the request that was made. Basically, I wanted you to know that both of Larry's daughters are here tonight, and if you, they would like to approach the board and share with you some words about Larry. I don't know what they're going to say, so and I don't know which one's going to do it, but basically, it's Casey Dowd Smith and Katrina Dowd Miller. So the Dowd name's pretty strong.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Gator blew my cover. Good evening, board members, Mr. Gator, and the staff. I am Casey Smith. I reside in Tampa, Florida. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you on this item. Tonight, I'm going to share just a little more about our favorite coach and our favorite public servant. Long before I played for coach in the Clearwater Basketball League, he had already been hard at work for the city of Clearwater, climbing his way through the ranks from a recreation leader at Clearwater Beach Recreation Center, to park superintendent and beyond. Coach cherishes all the time that he spent with Mr. Wilson, Mr. Cater, and the best Parks and Beautification team. He remains honored and humbled to have championed the establishment and led instruction in many of the city's first youth sports programs and led efforts to host the Special Olympics state games here in Clearwater. Coach continued to be elevated in roles in the department, and it has been said that he set the standard for impeccable athletic facilities in the city of Clearwater. Sports Illustrated even recognized Clearwater as the 50th anniversary sports town for the state. Coach dedicated all of his free time to developing young people, from his involvement with the Florida Junior Gators, Clearwater then American and National Little Leagues, Countryside Junior Cougars, Countryside Little League, the Clearwater Lady Bombers, Countryside High School, and Palm Harbor University. It's almost impossible to tally the number of volunteer hours he's amassed over the years or the lives he's touched. Coach balanced all of this service, while proudly representing and prioritizing his responsibilities as an employee for the city for 36 years. Yes, I am biased. And I like to think I'm one of the few who know all of these extraordinary qualities best. I'm the oldest daughter of Larry and Bridget Dowd. I mention our mom because Dad would have it no other way. She gave us much of herself in service to the leagues and community as the city. She's the voice of reason, yet the biggest cheerleader, and Dad is the dreamer. Fittingly, Mom ended her 30-plus year career here in the city with Parks and Rec as the beloved volunteer coordinator, retiring ahead of Dad while he continued to serve as the assistant director. Once in retirement, my dad coached his grandchildren in Little League in a neighboring county into his late 60s and has only recently been relieved of his bullpen duty due to illness. Coach is now on permanent IR, and he proudly is telling everyone from the sidelines when he can, to anyone and everyone, that Clearwater still has the best recreation complexes. We, my sister and I, and so many have been spoiled by our dad's innate ability to help mold children from all walks of life to reach common goals and to continually strive to do their best. On behalf of our family, thank you so very much for your consideration of honoring our dad's legacy, not just at Countryside Little League and Countryside Community Park, but for all the ways in which his footprints can still be found and are left throughout the city. Thank you. Sorry for the emotion.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for those words. It is an extraordinary individual that would devote so much of their time and their life to sports and development of the young people in our community. 36 years service to Parks and Recreation as well. I think Art put it best when he said the world is a better place and those kids are better off for having worked with Larry Dowd. Thank you very much. Art, do we need to make a...
Yes, according to Resolution 0931, we basically have done everything that is required. We notified the neighborhood associations about the naming. We did get back one response from the 3 associations, and they approved it and said they're grateful that we are doing something like this, so they were in favor of it. We have announced it, advertised, so we have done that correctly. This is certainly an individual that's worthy of this recognition. It is a field, basically, based on the criteria, you now have the opportunity to make a recommendation that goes to the city council regarding the naming of this ball field.
Very good. Someone make a recommendation?
I move to make a formal recommendation to the city council to name the field Larry Dow Field.
Second that?
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous.
May I also say in closing, I didn't say anything, but Larry, I worked with him he was with the city for 35 years. We started actually in working in day camps, summer camps with children at Ed Wright Park many, many years ago, making hobo stew for all those kids. And he came up through the ranks, and basically together we were co-assistant directors for the department. And he truly is a remarkable man and a friend. Thank you for that.
It's good that the Parks and Recreation Department and the city can take this opportunity to honor him for that service.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, 5.2, overview of the current Parks and Recreation median landscaping plan and future initiatives. This is an item that I put on the agenda on behalf of Mr. Bill Johnson, and I'd like to have Bill make his presentation prior to the board's discussion and resident input relative to this matter. So Bill, if you would take the floor.
Chair, I have like clarification. Is this timed? Does he have 3 minutes or?
Well, I didn't think of that. Bill, how long do you think this will take?
I think it will be sort of around that time.
Oh, okay.
I can go into a lot more detail later if you want.
Right. I think you were aware of the time limits, and I think you structured your presentation pretty close to match it. So if you can just do that, that would be fine, I think, for this.
Okay, thank you. Bill Johnson, I live in the countryside area, been involved in the city for many years and have been on the city council for a while. And during that time, I was familiar with the median landscaping programs on Gulf to Bay, on Missouri, and the one on the Drew and 19. And recently, what started me on this journey was Martin Luther King Day a year ago. I went up to the march and participated in the march and decided to take a picture of the marchers and took this picture. And you can see that the landscaping in the median is in pretty poor shape. I contacted the Parks Department and they ultimately did renovate that. And then last fall, I was pleased to see that for the first time, the city budget included a specific line item for right-of-way landscaping and with a crew of 6 people. The next thing that happened is, because I drive 19 so much, I've been watching the landscaping at the overpass of Drew and 19. And as I was driving through there, I noticed that there was beginning to get some litter, and the other picture there is a pile of palm fronds. I didn't know how bad it was until I actually walked out there and saw the piles of trash and palm fronds there. So I contacted the Parks and Rec Department and let them know that it looked like the stuff had been there for months. They have an agreement with FDOT to maintain the landscaping in return from the FDOT paying for the landscaping initially when it was installed. After the cleanup, this is what one of the sections looked like. The problem is that this is what it looked like the previous summer, in that the cleanup had removed the understory plants that were part of the landscape palette. And another shot of before and after. another shot of before and after. On Gulf to Bay, landscaping had been installed, and this particular piece a year ago was in pretty good shape. But the rest of Gulf to Bay was in terrible shape. And the Parks Department did go in and make a minimal repair, which included sod and these small plants. But some of those small plants have died for some reason. And I understand that people say that, well, we've got to fix the causeway because that's what the tourists see. But, so I'm not saying that we should have all of our roads look like that, but can't we be almost as good as Largo? Largo, about 7 years ago, decided they would bring in to house the landscaping and use it as a strategic advantage for their city. Some other views of Largo, in the lower left, you see a small sign, acknowledgement, a sponsorship sign that possibly could be considered. Another picture in Largo. And we have, I believe, done the maintenance of a small median on Drew Street near the East Library, and it's in good shape, and it seems to be maintained and surviving. So I think that we could do that. We do have a strategic plan objective that protects our public green spaces. And so I'm asking you today to recommend a budget to live up to our motto. Our motto is bright and beautiful from the bay to the beach. And what we previously were doing in Clearwater. So that's my request to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Cater, would you care to lead the discussion or comment upon the progress that has been made or not been made and what we may be doing in the future with respect to landscaping of the medians?
Mr. Johnson and I, we've talked on several occasions regarding this and discussed it, and we do have a plan. Basically, we received, again, additional funding, and we received the 6 additional people that are there. We are attempting to address not only the medians that are on Gulf to Bay, Missouri Avenue, Court Street, and basically Drew. Those are the ones where we have agreements with FDOT, as well as, of course, the Memorial Causeway that Mr. Johnson has alluded to as well. We have this crew. We have a schedule of various medians that we are renovating currently. Gulf to Bay was in very poor condition. It was terrible. And we wanted to go ahead and get that done and finished. I said, you ought to put something out there. Right. It is terrible. Get rid of all the old plants. So we did. It was a minimalist landscape design. But if you look at it, basically the palm trees, grass, and a few plants. We have problems at 3 of the turn lanes where people will continue to basically tear up anything you put in there. They just drive over the turn lanes and there's really nothing you can do. We had a meeting with FDOT last week with the Tampa office and sat down and asked them about the program, what we can and can't plant there. We are developing now a plant palette that will be used in the FDOT medians going forward. We are looking at possibly going with a grant for the Missouri Avenue landscape. I know that wasn't mentioned today because there's material in there, although if you ride down there, you'll see a lot of dead plants that are in that material. We will probably come back to Gulf to Bay and put it back in our schedule. It may be another year and a half to 2 years before we get back there to do any additional landscaping. We do have the Drew Street median, or the median area where you saw those pictures where we removed all of the plant material. Our crews went in there and they basically took out the dead wood. They saw the palm fronds. They were trying to clean up the area there, and they also saw that the oleanders were very leggy and were very, as you saw, they're very large. They were up almost 3/4 of the height of the palm tree,
Right.
and they went ahead and removed them. So it does look stark. You got a wall now. We are going back in. The schedule right now, we're a little behind, but we have a project schedule. We were to go in July the 15th through September the 2nd to re-landscape that area there. Now, the idea will be to put grass, and also we're looking now at a plant, it's called a chase tree. Basically it's called Vitex, and we'll mulch that area. It is a purple type blooming flower. It is certainly easier to maintain, and that's what we need. One of the things and the reasons we're doing what we are is we have 640 different locations in the city that are medians, or traffic circles, bump outs, and they are in all over the city. Back maybe 15 years ago, or it was a program to do that. The neighborhoods wanted to slow the traffic down,
Right.
and so they went out and created all of these landscape areas that have to be maintained. And while maintaining them, they were landscaped, and they never considered putting any personnel to maintain them. The Parks Department got 0 people to maintain any of those traffic calming facilities. What happened is they would come around every year, one other neighborhood would want additional landscaping or these medians. And so they design them, they go out, they put them in, and all of a sudden you've got more medians to handle.
Right.
Now, a lot of them were handled by contract. We did contract services because we simply did not have the staffing in-house to do that. So one of the things that, as we look at we're putting together a palette to say this is the palette that we're going to use in Clearwater. We're not going to go vary from that because we need to find plants that are native plants, sustainable plants, and sustainable designs. Because, you can put very nice plants in every one of these 640 locations, and it's unsustainable. So, but I understand the desire to have the entryways into Clearwater beautiful. And certainly Gulf to Bay is the key entryway into Clearwater. I contend to say that the green grass looks a lot nicer than what we had before. It is certainly not as robust as the plan that we had before. We're looking at that. We're looking at what we can redesign in there. We're working with FDOT. And like I said, it may be 18 months to 2 years before we get back into those medians, simply because we have other medians to handle. Matter of fact, where they are right now, they're finishing up the Skycrest medians, and as well, they're working at Harbor Oaks medians in the Harbor Oaks area. After they do 19, they'll hit Otten and Greenlee medians, then the Brook Hill, Hillcrest medians, Turner Street Dock, Hillside median, Countryside North 580 medians, Wildwood medians, and so forth. We do have a schedule, and we're attempting to do the very best that we can with what we have.
Is it true that with the agreement with FDOT, when these were done, that the financing for the maintenance and upkeep is strictly on the city? Is that funded at this present time?
Yeah,
And
that is correct.
Right.
And as you know, it's easier to build something, quite another thing to maintain
Maintain
it.
it.
As you know, the Long Center, the city accepted that, and they built that for $15 million. And the city's just now getting ready to fix the pool aquatic
Right.
area for around 13 million. So you can see the difference in what happens, and when you have to do that, you maintain it for life.
And was the landscaping budget done last year for the first time? Mr. Johnson did a display.
No, I think it was probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
That actually it was when the other city manager was here. You forget, yeah.
The previous year's budget did not have that
6
element
people, right.
highlighted and.
But it did get in the budget. It was slow at hiring the people. We were
Yeah.
having difficulty getting people on. I think for a year, we didn't even have anybody on. That was a difference. We created the new Public Works Department at that time. We had a director from the county. He went back to the county. We had to go
Right.
hire another director. So I think that whole program got delayed a year. And then finally, they decided they didn't want to keep it in Public Works, and they wanted to put it back in Parks and Recreation.
Right.
And so that's why we had it. We finally filled all these positions, and we're now addressing the needs that are out there. Probably on the Missouri Avenue, we're going to come back and landscape it identical to what it is now. Again, we'll have to take all the old plants and put in new plants. But that way, you don't have to, our responsibility, as Mr. Johnson said, is to maintain it. So we can go in there and take all those plant material out and put in the same plant material. Now, if we're going to try to do something differently, then we certainly have to get approval from FDOT to do that.
Right. Is that going to be another line item in the budget that they're working on presently for landscaping? Will still be in the budget this year again?
Landscaping will still be there. It's in the operating budget, and the monies for the plant material are in the operating budget. If we don't get an FDOT grant, we still have operating dollars, and we can do that ourselves in-house. This same crew that is doing this work, they can do that. Or we can get money from FDOT and basically contract it out.
In your opinion, is the money that's in the operating budget sufficient to do what you think we should be doing with respect to the median landscaping? Or is it the best we can do at the time and we just have to compromise on it?
Yeah, I don't think it's the money issue right now. I think there's money that is available for us to do the landscaping. It's just having the people and the time to get it done.
Okay,
Work in progress.
okay.
Yeah, now, you could go ahead and throw more money at it, we could contract it out, and that could get it done quicker and faster.
Right. Does that money include hiring additional people to work on landscaping specifically?
No.
It doesn't, okay. Any other questions from the board on this matter?
You asked all the questions I was thinking, but I did want to comment and say I think Gulf to Bay looks much better. The median, yeah, drive it all the time. Is there irrigation that got put into for the sod?
There is irrigation there.
Yeah.
And one of the requirements, of course, with FDOT is that you do have to water in whatever you plant there, and you're responsible to maintain that. Normally, we were trying to get clarification on that. We heard that, for example, Largo does not have irrigation in their medians. They water everything by water truck, which is certainly one way to get it,
Right.
watered in. However, we have irrigation in all of our medians.
Is there any possibility for us to do the sponsoring that Largo does for their medians? I drive on East Bay myself in Largo to go into a couple of meetings I'm in down there. Is that something that Clearwater's ever explored, or is it a possibility that we get businesses to assist us?
Absolutely. We can look at that. We have a volunteer coordinator that would love to do something like that.
Right.
I recall we actually had a program like that 20 years ago. Mr. Fred Thomas actually adopted one of the medians. It was at the entryway there, the split of court, when it comes up to, I can't remember the names of those roads, but he had adopted it at that time. So we do have a program that hasn't worked since then, but we can look at it. Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing to consider, because when you go through Largo, you can see those little signs sponsored by so-and-so, sponsored by so-and-so on those medians. And they do look very nice coming into Largo. And perhaps if the focus is going to be on Gulf to Bay or those main entranceways, particularly Gulf to Bay into Clearwater, if we could focus on that, it certainly would be beneficial to visitors as well as ourselves to at least see that as nice as it can be. So hopefully that will happen. And as the budget process is being undertaken, members of the board or residents can always go to a council meeting and speak on behalf of making sure that the budget is adequate to do some of this landscaping. So hopefully that would happen as well. Bill, do you have any other further comments you'd like to share with us at this time, or?
No, thank you for your discussion. I'll be talking to the council members so they understand this, but I wanted to brief you first. And I also would say that I've met and communicated with Mr. Cater on multiple occasions, and he's always been responsive. Haven't always liked his answers because I'd like to see Clearwater like it used to be, where
Right.
I looked down my nose at Largo and said, I'm glad I live in Clearwater.
Very good.
Well, I will say this, Mr. Johnson's wearing on me, obviously, because I have some, we have new plans, like I said, for Drew Street coming up,
Yeah.
putting back in some understory that was taken out. Also, Missouri Avenue will be re-beautified again because we haven't taken anything out of there, so that will still look nice. We just have to get back to Gulf to Bay.
Yeah, I would agree on that, so.
Yeah.
Well, the next council meeting is this coming Monday, so Bill, I expect I will see you there as well, and maybe we'll both have an opportunity to speak on this matter. Any further comment from the public on this one?
I'm Paul Kellety. I'm the president of the Clearwater Garden Club at this time, and I'd like to emphasize the importance of soil health in keeping these medians together. I think that a lot of the chance of what I've experienced down here, if you don't have trees or overcover, the sun will just bleach all the organic matter out of the soil. Then you're not going to be able to keep anything alive regardless of how much water you want to put on the property or on the piece of land that you're trying to get to grow. One of the other things that are happening nationwide now is a real attention to soil health and the importance of the biome and the other bacteria that are in the soil, and that's being destroyed by various pesticides, various insecticides, all these things that are killing all the other things that we want to kill. Is also killing the things that are keeping our plants alive. And so there should be special attention to maybe putting additional manpower into weeding instead of just spraying the hell out of everything to make sure that nothing else grows that you don't want to grow. So that's the thing. I enjoyed hearing Mr. Rafferty talk about other means of maintaining the medians, because in my experience with 30 years with the Public Works Department of the City of Kansas City, Missouri, we can't be the only one that has this problem. And anytime that you go out there and you look at somebody else, what they're doing, maybe the sponsorship that you were talking about is maybe a program to say, hey, why don't you design this, and they maintain it as well, and they do all the work on that median because it promotes their business. So if a landscaper wants to do a presentation to the board on various things, what they would think would be good for that median, they could spend their money, they could do their things. They may even have greenhouses that they could actually rotate the plants out from summer to fall, or whatever they need to do to make those medians look good. Because, if you don't have the resources, there's other ways that you can kill this thing and get this thing done. So that's my suggestion to the board, and I appreciate them trying to make the city look more green and trying to conserve their green spaces, because that's what makes this town. And I know I've been trying to redo the garden club for the last 2 years and put in paver walkways. And yes, that was the first step of the process, remove. And I think that the park department has done a real good job of removing everything. And now it's time to refresh. And so I look forward to you guys doing that.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One final question, Art. Do we use water trucks at all, or are all of our medians irrigated to maintain those plants?
I believe we have one water truck. I'm not sure that it's in the Parks Division. It may be in one of the other divisions, like public utilities or right-of-way, those kind of things. And it brought up a good point. For example, the palms, the disease that we've had there, and we lost several palms. And at this point in time, FDOT would not allow us to replace them. We've asked them, they won't. So that's dead. We also know that in certain of the medians that we do have, we have to keep plant height down to like around, we've been told, and we're gonna, again, make sure that everything is in writing, that we basically have standard operating procedures for all of this, that we have a template for everything, the kinds of plants we can put in there, but that they can't be greater than 18 inches in height, which means you need to find a plant or ground cover that stays very, very low, because if it gets too high, it is a problem. And we did notice, I'm not going to throw Largo under the bus, but you've got to keep the plant height, which means you got to maintain them.
Yep.
And one of the things is Gulf to Bay is the most heavily traveled highway. People are trying to get to Clearwater Beach, and it's
Yep.
bumper to bumper most of the time. You have to do the work at night, and of course it's something you can do, but the problem we have is anytime you're working in Gulf to Bay, you've got to block up a lane so that the people are safe, and that causes other traffic issues. So it's not impossible. We do it, and we can certainly.
Very good.
Just one more comment.
Sir, could you, I really would like individuals to approach the
Okay.
podium. So it's not for me and it's not for the members of the public.
I agree.
It's just
I
that when
agree.
people watch the video and then they'll call me because they can't hear anybody. So please.
There is a strip of median between Belcher and County Road 1 on Curlew, and they have a ground cover that's just gorgeous, that just blooms all summer long, and they've got some fairly nice palms that are shading the area. So that could be a solution to some of the things. It seems to be somewhat drought tolerant, and it's just gorgeous. Orange flowers most of the summer.
Very good.
So
That's good. Thank you. We're looking into that, and it does look good some of the time,
Yep.
but in the wintertime, it doesn't look so good.
Right.
But
There's no any further discussion or input. We'll move on to the next item. That is item 5.3, which is to discuss the April Parks and Recreation Project Update Report.
I'm not going to go over all of the projects, just a couple of them. The Ream Wilson Trail Bridge structure, this is the last time you'll see that. Hopefully you've gone by and seen the new bridge that's at Del Oro Park. It's beautiful. It's strong now. It's going to last us for another 20 years without having to do hopefully any more repairs to that bridge. The McKay Park conceptual design, basically it's beyond that. We are actually starting to get prices on the cost of that, and our goal is to have that park completed hopefully by the end of the year. On the other side, the three of them that I'd like to mention is State Street Park. We basically are going to the council with the designer for that park. We met with the homeowner association there, and they're certainly very supportive, and they actually have helped design this park. They're going to leave it pretty much as a nature park, a very natural park with trails, picnicking, that type of thing. And Ross Norton Park, just to let you know, we are getting prices now to complete the work that's on the western side of the Norton Park. which will include basically some landscaping and a basketball tree and one of the small courts for children to play with. So they're all going well. Edgewater Drive, we're basically holding back on that project until we find out how much funding we'll get from the state for our FERDAP grant application.
On the activity on the State Street Park, is that being funded by the $700,000 ARPA funding that
That
was
is correct,
done by the
yes.
council? Very
Yes.
good, okay. Any questions from board members on the project report? If not, we'll move on to the next item of the director's report, item number 6.
Well, I'm going to be real short. I really don't have anything to bring to you tonight.
Okay, very good. And the last item we have is for board members to be heard on any subject or topic they would like to speak about, and I'll start off with Marty.
I just have a quick comment. I know Art has had extensive experience in utilizing various plant species to do these medians and all sorts of landscaping features. I just would encourage him to look at what else might be out there, you know, and we can talk about this later, but there's so many plants that are, you don't even think about it until you see it, like that gentleman did about Belcher Road. You know, it's like, wow, that looks beautiful. You know, I never thought of using that before, but also be careful because like with Kogan grass, I see that coming up in areas all over the state. I mean, the state, not just this county. And it puts out so many flowers. And when it seeds, it puts out millions. And so if you don't, you know, if you're not careful and get rid of it quick, you're gonna have a problem someplace else. And once it gets established, it just goes by rhizome. And so again, I get back to the nuisance species management and control and just how careful you have to be with what are you using, how do you use it, you know. Let's get this low maintenance type of stuff. So that's what I would encourage you. And I know you do it already, but I just want to reiterate that because it's so important to get the right plant in the right place, you know, and make the right decision, so.
Very good. Jason?
I don't have anything else tonight.
Angie?
I think it would be a suggestion probably for Coachman Park, but I don't know, maybe for other park programming, possibly like a Science in the Park program where, I don't know, science teachers or people who are interested in science can come and put on like a little experiment for the kids. Like I did, I made some bubbles with just some corn syrup and some Dawn soap and some water with my kid the other day, and we used like one of those expanding balls. And it would be really cool to, especially in Coachman Park with the band, with the stage there. We could do something like basically like a Bill Nye program for the kids in the park. I think it would be pretty cool. So that would be a suggestion.
Well, thanks
that
for
I
the
have.
suggestion, yeah.
Very good.
That's it.
I'd just like to bring to the attention of the board members and the public a couple of items that, based upon the initiatives of Parks and Recreation, were approved by council last meeting on the 18th of April. The first one is $532,873 was approved for pavement milling and resurfacing at the following parks: Country Hollow Park, Forest Run Park, Glen Oaks Park, Philip Jones Park, Sewell Road Park, and Woodgate Park. We need to be aware that the Parks and Recreation Department exercises initiatives to take care of our parks that we may not be aware of, and I want to bring it out at this board meeting to let them be aware of that. And the second item was $101,882 was approved for the final design and construction of new structural and surface improvements at Crest Lake Park. And if I'm not mistaken, that's for the maintenance equipment to be well maintained and prevented from the weather giving it a problem. It's nothing to do with the park itself. But
That's correct.
once again, initiatives of the Parks and Recreation Department explained to the council and approved by the council.
Yes, sir.
Well done. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank everybody for your attendance and your participation.